Like a challenge to see how many people you knew and how many names you could write down. It was like over the 3-day training, whatever. It was like between the second and third day, go home and write down as many names as you could. Just, which ended up being the people that you could call in case you didn't have any leads.
Didn't do my homework because that was too invasive. For just people I know, I wouldn't do that.
Did he later have you group the people on the list into income groups?
Yes, he did.
As married, owning a home, and over 30.
Yes, he did. He called those people HM3s, and yeah, we were supposed to list as many HM3s as we knew, and those were like the prime like sales targets.
The only time that I turned in names with other information of any sort was for proof of having given the speech. Okay, for me it was luckily just friends and family. You know, yeah. At that point though, you could not get paid. So unless you had their name, address, and telephone, because they said they needed confirmation.
We did turn it in. I mean, it seems sort of implied that he wasn't going to use it for anything, but he never explicitly told us that, you know, he's just going to throw these papers away. So, yeah, he did collect them. I don't know what he did with them, though.
I have encountered students who have a very straightforward economic motivation for attendance at school. I think the majority of the students that I've worked with don't have a particularly narrow view, that their view is wider and they're looking to incorporate their business and work lives into the greater question of their own happiness and of social well-being.
Me, future plans are definitely to own my own business. After being self-employed, I could never work a regular 9-to-5 job because 95% of America works for 5% and I'm going to be in the 5%.
Well, the thing that made me finally decide to leave was when I realized exactly what the job is. When I realized that at the end of the presentation, you know, when you go and do your presentation, at the very end, you have to basically ask the person who you're presenting to, you have to ask them to call all their friends and for them to ask their friends if you can come and present for them. And that was something I really didn't like.
Like the way they told us to say to people was just like, oh, just tell them I'm practicing for a new job and I just need to know how I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's really the main part of the sales, was just people you knew, especially your family.
Nothing mattered. I looked at it, when I explained this to my friends, you just burned bridges, you know. You're supposed to call up and give your sob story to a coach that you had 10 years ago.
And it wasn't even me who made most of the money, it was my manager, I guess.
Like I said, they operate so much in the gray area. Like, they do all these things that I think they really shouldn't be allowed to do.
They had the rates, as the rep made, you know, 10%, 15, whatever, all the way down to 50. They put like how much the manager made, and it was like for the 10% level, the manager made like 50%, and then it would just go down like 5% for him. So it kind of was like an inverse. So it was almost like the more new people he had that made sales, he'd make more out of the product. It's like way more than the rep did too.
People already want there to be harmony between how they live their lives off the job and how they live their lives on the job. And that these aren't separate spheres of life. It's not like when you go into the office, you put your morality on the shelf. I don't think that that's what business people actually do. I think business people carry their moralities, and they ought to carry their moralities into the workplace. But there's still a rhetoric that survives that says business is business.
Do you have any last thoughts or feelings about it?
Well, my whole experience left me just feeling kind of cheated, mainly out of my time.
I mean, there was a time about a week or two after I started where I just like broke down, I was like crying because I felt so guilty for pushing this onto people. Like going into their house and being like, here, buy these $900 set of knives.
Was that, you know, organizations tend to be stronger than individuals, and an individual can have the greatest ideals going into a workplace and be broken down by unhealthy norms in a particular workplace. And so the organizational systematic change is much slower than we would like, and much slower than simply changing an individual. But yeah, my hope is that as new generations entered the workforce, that we'll start seeing this greater integration.